I said today that I would look at some of your comments. I'm going to look at one comment and one comment only. There have been a number of comments about Alex Belfield. I'm not going to look at those. This is a comment by Mariana Bednarak. I hope I've got her name correct. She's talking about a video that I made about Aidan Aslin. This was the brave fellow who had been fighting in Ukraine, in Mariupol, and who has been released, and who has also now testified about the level of torture that he suffered, the threats that he was subjected to, the starvation diet, and the fact that he was kept in a place that was unfit even for dogs. Now, this particular lady has written back. Of course, I've had quite a lot of trolling, some of it not in English. I've tried to respond to as much as I can, as politely as I can. I don't intend to accept any more comments of this nature, though. I'm going to read it out. Think Aidan should be very grateful to be spared. He spoke freely, the neo-Nazis he trained and fought with. We have all seen these videos, we all know what's going on, and our establishment funding it's same as every war, conflict and famine they have caused. Russia wants liberation to the Russian that have suffered in Ukraine for 8 long years. Would you like it, Professor, if you were forbidden to speak the English language and practice your faith or beliefs? You're not that informed, or you trying to fool us too? Of course, the English is not very good, but I think this is because Mariana's first language is not English. I don't intend to respond in Russian because my Russian can be quite shaky sometimes, particularly if I'm annoyed. I am annoyed at the moment. Aidan was tortured and half-starved, and I have no sympathy with anybody who condones torture. My partner is also a torture victim, so I don't tolerate any of this sort of language that justifies any sort of abuse of this nature. Aidan says he was treated like a dog, and this particular person also comes out with propaganda, and then this sort of rhetoric, this rhetorical stuff about whether or not I would like it if the English language was forbidden to me. Well, the difference between Russian and Ukrainian is very small. It is significantly different, certainly when I was in Rostov, down in Rostov, there's a sort of Russian which is spoken, which is very similar in accent to the Russian which is spoken in Ukraine. There are a number of different words and certainly different spellings, and I think we should honour that. As for the idea that faith is suppressed in the Donbass, because this person is talking about the Donbass activity over the last 8 years, over the previous 8 years before Putin invaded. And this is the activity which is characterized by apparently a neo-Nazism and a particular fondness for Bandera. This is the man who was a sort of extreme a Ukrainian nationalist, tried to use the Nazi invasion as a way to extricate Ukraine from Russia. He didn't succeed. He was also an anti-Semite. So whatever movements were made by the Azov Brigade, or those people who were connected to the Azov Brigade and who were neo-Nazis, this is sort of eclipsed by the arrival of President Zelensky, who is Jewish and some of whose family members were killed during the Nazi Holocaust. It is unthinkable to suggest that Zelensky condones Nazi activity. Unthinkable. And as for freedom of religion, both the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church hold their liturgies in Slavic, in Church Slavonic. And it's the same in both churches. The Russian Orthodox Church was born in Kiev, or as Russians would call it, Kiev. And this was the conversion of the Slavs, and the conversion particularly of Prince Vladimir. The idea that Russians in the Donbass were not allowed to practice their faith is absurd. There were Russian churches affiliated to the Moscow Patriarchate that remained in the Donbass, and there were also churches affiliated to the Ukrainian Patriarchate, which was redefined and which linked itself to the Ecumenical Patriarchate. Of the two, the Russian Church is the only one to have a concept of a just war, and it hasn't followed them. The Ukrainian Patriarchate, following the traditions of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, does not recognize that there is such a thing as a just war. There is no such thing as a good war. A war is a necessity that you respond to when you are invaded. That is acceptable. But this idea that there are rules by which you can follow a good war, this is something that was embraced by the Patriarch Kirill in the year 2000. And he has failed on every single one of those. I made a video the other day. So, Mariana Bednarek, you are warned. If I get another email, if I get another text message like that, I will simply block you, and I will remove your comments. I consider that really quite foul and slightly shocking. Sorry to single you out.